Hello friends, family, and internet strangers. Stephanie here with a new What's for Dinner video.
First up is some pepper steak with onion. This is one of my favorite meals to order when I get Chinese takeout, but I have not until this point successfully made it on my own. So this is a recipe that I got from Mindy over at Slice of Life. If you have not checked out her channel, y'all should definitely be subscribed to Mindy's channel. She is the absolute sweetest. I love her and her channel so much. That is one of the first YouTube friends I made was Mindy from Slice of Life, and just go to her channel, send her all kinds of love because she is great. She does recipe videos, she does grocery hauls, and then she has her husband Chris is her taste tester, and they have an adorable dog named Sadie. So definitely check out Mindy's channel. Here I will have the video linked down below where she made this, so that will have her video and her recipe, and I'll also link her channel in general in the description box below because this tasted very delicious. But I struggle with making Chinese food at home. I love eating it. I cannot for the life of me master making it. I cannot get the flavors right no matter how many different recipes I try. So I was surprised when I was actually able to do this one, and it was really good. So what I'm doing here, I already prepped the sauce, and then I just had some butter down in this pan, and I've got my steak. I'm also adding some garlic into this as well. This was on sale at Aldi. I don't cook with steak very often. I generally will stick to ground beef if I'm doing beef, or I'll throw like a pot roast into a slow cooker or an Instant Pot, but I'm not one to really cook with steak very much, so this was different for me. But this was on sale, so I couldn't resist, especially since I had seen this video that Mindy made and I wanted to try this recipe. So I didn't really make any changes to the recipe that Mindy had, with the exception of I left out, she had cherry tomatoes in hers, and I am not a big tomato person. I like tomato sauces, but I don't really like tomatoes themselves. So I left that out. And also she used ground ginger, but I didn't have any of that, so I substituted the approximate amount of fresh minced ginger that would lead to the amount of the ground ginger that she used. And I also added my onions and peppers a little bit earlier than she did in her recipe, just because I like really, really soft onions and peppers. So I wanted to make sure mine were the texture that I liked. So that is up to you when you add that in the process, based on whether you like the firmer or the softer version of the nice peppers and onions there. Last thing I add is the slurry of soy sauce, cornstarch, and water. I add that in and it becomes a gravy. I let this thicken up a little bit, and then I cooked some white rice in my Instant Pot and served this over the white rice. And as I said, this was really good. Definitely recommend. And if you are one who also, like me, struggles to make Chinese food takeout at home, leave me a comment down below so that I know I am not alone in my inability to properly make the foods that I want to at home. The one thing that I really have not been able to get at all, which is my favorite thing, is chicken with broccoli. So if anyone has a good recipe for that, also please let me know. But this one turned out great. Next up, I've got some ravioli with meatballs. I had ravioli in the freezer that had been there for a while, half a bag that I just needed to finish up. And I also had one last package of my spaghetti sauce in the freezer, and I will link that down below. I always link it down below when I show myself using it. I do make my own spaghetti sauce. However, I knew that my one bag I had was not going to be enough for this, so I had to find a way to stretch it out so it would be enough to have with my ravioli here. So what I did was I put some oil in a pan, a little bit of EVOO, and some garlic, got that fragrant, and I added a can of diced tomatoes. I had one of the Aldi cans of diced tomatoes with the oregano and garlic in them, and I added that into some garlic, and I kind of smushed it down because, again, I don't really like big chunks of tomato. I like tomato sauce, but not actual tomatoes. I know I'm odd like that. So I crushed that up a little bit, and then I added my one bag and kind of tried to squeeze everything possible out of that bag into the pan so I could really maximize my sauce there. And then I stirred it together and let the flavors all come together a little bit of the diced tomatoes into the sauce that was already made. I also had some meatballs. The way I make those is also in that same video that I will have linked down below of how I make the sauce. Also shows how I make the meatballs. So I had pulled those out of the freezer the night before I planned on making this, so they were thawed and I could just throw them right into the sauce. And then for my ravioli, when I put it in the pot, I did also have a little bit of oil in the pot because I didn't want it to stick together. So it was just water and oil and a little bit of salt. And then once that is done, I'm just going to put that right over into my sauce and meatball mixture. I stir that up, let the meatballs absorb all of that sauce and become really, really delicious, and then transfer all my pasta over. Now, when I do ravioli, this is just plain cheese ravioli. It's the Aldi brand that you get in the freezer section at Aldi, and I do like that brand. I had it once or twice before, and it is pretty good. I would love to try like a meat ravioli from them though, because I do tend to prefer meat ravioli over cheese ravioli, but this is what I had. So I'm always going to add extra cheese to this when I make it. When I was growing up, anytime my dad made ravioli, we always did it with the sauce, sometimes the meatballs in there as well, and then put some mozzarella cheese on top and put it in the oven. This particular night, I did not feel like waiting for this to spend a lot of time in the oven, so I put my mozzarella cheese on top. I also put some Parmesan cheese on top. While it was all still hot and in the pan, I put the lid on my pan and I let the cheese start to melt, and then instead of throwing it in the oven for a while, what I did was I took the top off, and this is a Dutch oven, so it can go into my air fryer, into the oven. I put it into my air fryer under the broiler for 5 minutes to brown up the cheese, and this turned out really well. It still worked out with the added diced tomatoes, still made my sauce taste nice and good. Next up, this is a fail, but I am posting it still because the taste wasn't a fail. I baked it too long. So it was a texture fail, but in general, this would still taste good. So I will have a video out next week that's all about meal prepping for a busy week. I had prepped a whole bunch of food for my closing week at work, which tends to be a week that just eats up all of my time. So I had prepped that bacon. All I did was put it in a pot and let it all cook, and then I saved all the oil. So I had decided to use some of that to make these little egg bites because I hadn't used the bacon during the week that I actually prepped it. So I was going to make some breakfasts, but I hadn't had dinner this night, so I decided, I'll have one of these for a small dinner, and then the rest will be prepped for breakfast. And then I overbaked them. But these did have a good taste to them, just not a good texture. So all I've got here, I've got eggs, I've got a little bit of milk, I have some of my corruption seasoning. You can use whatever seasoning you want to season your eggs. You can use salt, pepper, garlic powder. I just had the corruption already out, so decided to use that. I added cheese, and then I added more cheese because I had two different types. So this is eggs, bacon, milk, cheddar, and a little bit of jack cheese as well, all mixed together. I put it into a muffin tin. I did grease this with butter. If you've never seen me do that, I take butter wrappers and use that to grease my pans. I keep butter wrappers in my freezer because I do find it's the best way to grease a pan. And I just ladled this into here. So I get really nervous about cooking certain things and making sure they're fully done, and eggs are one of those things that I don't cook very often, so I'm always concerned that they're going to be underdone. So I could have taken these out of my air fryer probably about 2 or 3 minutes earlier than I did, and they would have been great. But also, they still didn't look cooked, and then I took them out and they kind of sunk in, and you'll see in this next shot what it looked like. But again, flavor's on point. Just keep an eye on these when you cook them. If you are good at determining when eggs are done, this should turn out perfect for you, because these did taste great. They just didn't have the right texture. And then lastly, I had asked in last week's video if y'all wanted me to start showing what I eat out, and I got yeses to that. So this is from a restaurant in Burbank called Monte Carlo, Deli, and Pinocchio restaurant. So this place is pretty well known in Burbank. It is an Italian food staple here. I normally get pasta and take it to go, but I have always seen people get sandwiches, and the sandwiches, when you get them, you get 2 salads with them. So I got a sausage and pepper sandwich, and I got pasta salad and a garden salad. Definitely try Monte Carlo Deli and Pinocchio if you have not ever been and you are in the Burbank area. Definitely recommend.
Thanks so much for watching. I hope you found some inspiration in this video, even though this one was kind of all over the place. But next week I will have a video out about meal prepping for a busy week, because I do tend to have really late shifts 1 week of every 3 weeks, and that is always when I get off course. So next week's video is going to be about meal prepping for busy weeks. I mentioned that briefly when I was talking about my egg bites in this video, which, you know, if you want to give them a try and bake them properly, let me know down in the comments how they turn out for you. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and hit that subscribe button down below if you haven't already. See you next time.